Breaking news. A man was admitted to the hospital today with 25 plastic toy horses inserted into his rectum. Doctors have described his condition as stable. What up, YouTube? Let's hear. Thanks again for visiting the channel. As always, I appreciate it. Now, I have to credit that joke. That joke was not mine. I stole that joke from somebody off of Instagram. Stacy Bolstered Blades. So if you'd be so kind, go ahead and give her a follow on Instagram. I'd appreciate it. Again, Stacy _Bolstered Blades. BOLSTEREDBLADES. Next, if you do me a favor and go on to Instagram, give me a quick follow, I'd appreciate that as well. Let's _do it up. And if you'd like to send me some knives to review on the channel, you can just go ahead and send me an email. It's letsdiu79@gmail.com. Send me a message. I will send you my shipping address, and you can go ahead and send me a knife to review if you'd like, and I will send it back as soon as I'm finished with the review. Today we're going to be doing a quick review on a couple of my MICROTECH knives. We're going to be doing a review on the MICROTECH Combat TROODON and the MICROTECH DIRAC Delta. The reason I'm doing the review on both these knives is because they're pretty similar in size, shape, length, blade steel, all that good stuff. So I figured I might as well just do them both at once and get it out of the way. The first one here, the MICROTECH Combat TROODON. This is, I believe, an older knife as far as design goes compared to the DIRAC Delta. I believe the DIRAC Delta was released a little bit after the Combat TROODON was. But these are both relatively long knives. And the second one, obviously, is the DIRAC Delta. Now, there was a standard version of this that came out first. The standard DIRAC is much, much smaller. The DIRAC Delta, obviously, is the larger version of this knife. And I like it a lot. I really, really love this knife. It's become probably one of my favorite knives in my collection. But then again, they both kind of are. I'm a big fan of both of these knives for sure. So the first thing we're going to do is size comparisons. I will leave them both on here, but like I said, they're pretty similar in size and shape. First, compared to the Rat Model 1, let's see if this is going to stay on camera here. Yeah, the Rat Model 1 is just a little bit smaller than both of these knives, and the Rat 2 is obviously going to be quite a bit smaller than both of these knives. The DEMKO knives. Up first is the DEMKO 8020S. I believe these are all going to be just a little bit shorter than the MICROTECH knives. Yeah, the 8020S is a little bit shorter than the MICROTECH knives, and the 8020.5 is obviously going to be quite a bit shorter than both of these knives. And last but certainly not least, we've got the SPYDERCOs. SPYDERCO Paramilitary 2 is obviously going to be just a little bit smaller than both of these knives, and the Para 3 is going to be quite a bit smaller than both of these knives. Carry profile. Let's get these guys all closed. It's going to take a second longer than it normally does. I apologize about that. Okay, almost there. Now, when they're closed, the MICROTECH knives obviously are still going to be quite a bit longer than both of these knives. And we're going to do thickness on both of them just because they are completely different models. The thickness on the Combat TROODON, that's going to be just a little bit thicker than the Para 3. And the DIRAC Delta is going to be a little bit more thicker than the Combat TROODON was. We're going to get a weight on these. Oops, sorry. I didn't do blade stock thickness. I have to get a new caliper, guys. My caliper is effed completely. It doesn't work at all. So I did write it down. The blade thickness for the Combat TROODON, that comes in at about 127 thousandths. And the DIRAC Delta is about 123 thousandths. So the blade thickness on this guy is just a little bit thinner than the blade thickness on this guy. Now I'm going to show you here, if you can see, As you can see, it gets a little bit thicker down here in the middle of the blade. So that's where most of the thickness is. So that's where I measured it. And with this being double ground or dual ground blades, I did that on both of these guys. So I took the blade stock thickness right about here, where the thicker part of the blade is solid without this fuller here. Just gonna wait on these guys. Get them closed real quick. Don't have to have them open for that. Okay. This guy turned on. See if we're still on pounds and ounces. Good. So the DIRAC Delta is going to be, excuse me, 4.4 ounces. And the Combat TROODON is going to be 5.1, just a little bit heavier. Not terrible, which actually surprised me, because this one with the G10 show side, and just to me, the way it feels, the DIRAC Delta feels slightly heavier than the Combat TROODON, but obviously that is not the case. The blade seal, as I said, on both of these guys is M390. I'll go ahead and show you that. Whoops. Nice thing about these guys is they're easy to fix if you fail them. Okay, so as you can see here, M390, you've got USA here on the blade, and it's got Combat TROODON double edge written there on the blade. It's going to be exactly the same thing for the DIRAC Delta. It's a little harder to see, but you've got DIRAC Delta right here, and then you've got M390 here on the bottom of the blade, and you've got USA here on the top. So these are both USA made knives in MICROTECH. Actually, their main office is in Bradford, Pennsylvania, which is just about a 2-hour drive from me, which is nice. If I ever get the opportunity to take a tour there, I will certainly take it for sure. Now, both of these knives happen to be dagger ground, but these do come in single edge. They come in tanto or drop point if that is your cup of tea. These are both flat ground blades. These do not have hollow grinds or anything like that on them. And there is a slight amount of blade play in both of these knives. When you're talking up and down, the DIRAC Delta is definitely there, but it's not a gross amount of blade play. And side to side, it's just a little bit less than the up and down play. With the Combat TROODON, I'll say the up and down play is a little bit less than with the DIRAC Delta, and the side to side play is almost almost unnoticeable. I don't know if that's a real word or not, but you almost can't even tell that it's there. Excuse me. You obviously don't have a pivot with these knives, and the hardware on these guys is all proprietary. I meant to actually get out, I have the tool that you can use to adjust or to take apart these knives, but I meant to take that out, but I forgot to do that. There's two different kinds that you can get. You can get a really expensive one, which you can buy off of knife sites and stuff. I think that one's like $125 or $130, but it's definitely bigger than this one. I got this one off of Amazon, and I think it was like 15 or 20 bucks or something like that. So this smaller area here obviously is what takes care of the body screws. These just slide right on to here, and they're very easy to unscrew and take apart and everything like that. Now there is a bigger part in the back here, which is for the pocket clip, but this is the wrong tool, obviously. So these glass breakers here are much bigger than on this tool. Now if you order the one off of Amazon, which is the one that I bought, be prepared, because they're going to come from China, and it's going to take quite a while to get those in your mail. But it wasn't too bad. I didn't mind waiting. I'm glad to have them now, though, because when I first got this one, it ended up getting a whole bunch of gunk in the operating mechanism, and I couldn't get it cleared out enough. I made the mistake of using oil to lube it up instead of I'm not sure what the actual powdered oil or the powdered lubricant that they use for this guy. I can't remember what that's called, but WD-40 works just as good for these guys. As I said, if you get one of these and it starts to slow down, don't use oil on it. That'll actually make the problem worse. The scales, or the body plates, or whatever the hell you want to call them. I call them scales. These are made of aluminum, which in this one, as I said, is only half of the knife. The other half is made with G10, which I didn't even know that these came with G10 show side scales. But this is a signature series, so that's, there's supposed to be something special about it, which I guess with this one is the G10 show side scale. Again, which I expected to make the knife a little bit cheaper, but it did not. There's obviously no lock for this knife, because when you deploy it, it gets locked in by the internal mechanism, and when you, what's the word I'm looking for? Jesus Christ. When you disengage it, it has the same mechanism on the back side that locks the knife into place. So there is no lock for this knife whatsoever. As I said, no pivot. The action on these guys, as you can see, is absolutely fantastic. They have quite a bit of power when they fire and when you disengage them. So there's no problem there at all. There's no detent. They have a little bit of jimping up here near the trigger. There's a little bit in the back here. Same thing on the underside. And then on the scales themselves, they have a little bit of, not jimping, but just milling to allow you to get a little bit of more of a purchase on the knife so it's not so slippery. Because when you are deploying or disengaging these knives, it can be pretty difficult because it's a safety measure. When it's in your pocket, it won't deploy. That's why they make the triggers a little bit harder. I will say that the trigger on the DIRAC Delta is certainly a lot easier to manipulate, just because it's a wider trigger, and you're able to use more surface area of your thumb to get this guy to go in and out. With the Combat TROODON, I'll say it's more difficult because, as you can see, this trigger is a lot thinner, so it doesn't contact as much of your thumb as the one on the DIRAC Delta. So that makes it a little bit more difficult to deploy and disengage. But it's not too bad once you get used to it. You'll get a little bit of a callus on your thumb, and that will make it a little easier to just deploy and disengage. These knives are very, very expensive. They start out around, now be careful, because when you're looking for these knives, if you look up just the TROODON, it's going to be a lot cheaper, but it's going to be a lot smaller as well. The Combat TROODON usually starts between $500 and $550, and it'll go up from there depending on what you're looking for. If you get a signature series or if you get a Marthion custom, obviously that's going to be quite a bit more expensive. The DIRAC Delta is a little bit more affordable. Those usually start anywhere between, I'd say, $390 and $450, but again, will also go up in price if you're getting something like a signature series. I don't know if Marthion does custom DIRAC Deltas or not, but I'm sure if he does, they'll be much more expensive. They are available currently. I will put some links in the description that you guys can use to buy these knives if you'd like to. But it's not readily available the vast majority of the time. You have to wait until MICROTECH releases some in order for them to be available. It took me probably a good 6 to 8 months after these became legal in my state to find one that I wanted in order for me to be able to buy one. I'm also going to compare and contrast these with Lightning OTF knives. A lot of people have Lightning OTF knives that are very readily available. They're inexpensive, they're easy to buy. They're definitely less, lower quality, but they're not shitty knives, I guess I would say. The difference between these two, of course, if you're looking for an OTF just to have one, like, hey, look, this is cool, and you want to just show your friends something like that, then yeah, go ahead and buy a Lightning OTF. I certainly would not buy a MICROTECH for something like that. However, if it's something that you're going to use and carry and depend on, I would certainly buy the MICROTECHs for sure. The biggest difference between these guys that I can see for the most part is the fit and finish. With these knives, these are kind of like a lower quality metal or steel, probably like kind of pot metal, I guess I would call it. These are not made with aluminum, obviously. The hardware, as you can see, you've just got small screws here, which probably aren't very good quality steel. And the trigger itself also is just a low quality steel. Kind of the same concept. You've got an opening hole which is not centered. It's not centered on these guys either. So if anybody ever buys one not expecting that, the holes on these guys are not going to be centered just because of the way the internal mechanisms are set up. It's going to be kind of offset, so that's normal. But you also have a blade that on this guy is, I mean, it's not very sharp at all. I can run this thing across my hand all day long. And I've never really even used this knife. It's just kind of how it came. It doesn't even have the blade steel written on here. It's probably like 440 or something like that. And then while these are coated, well, this one's coated anyway, the other one's anodized. This is obviously DLC coating here, which is very high quality, and it's going to last quite a long time as long as I don't abuse the hell out of it. But these are just paint. There's no DLC coating on these guys or anything like that. Also, the blade play on these guys is much more noticeable than it is with the MICROTECHs for sure. As far as the internal mechanisms go, I've had, you know, each one of these that I've had, they fail all the time, but you know, you can still just pop them back out and they work perfectly fine. I've only ever had one actually break on me, and I think that's because just the materials that they use are much lower quality on these than they are with this. You can tell when you open this guy up that the metal that they use to put these together, again, is just not very good quality. The way these work, you've got two springs in here. One is pushing, one is pulling. So while this is retracted, it's got a spring here on the forward part of the knife, which is kind of stretched out and it's under tension and it's waiting to thrust the blade out of the handle. Now once you have it out, that spring becomes relaxed, and you've got kind of like a tab here which kind of falls down and locks there's a plate here as well that locks the blade into place so that it doesn't fall back into the handle. Now while the blade is deployed, there's the other spring in here is now under tension and waiting to pull the blade back into the handle. Once you pull the handle back, it will kind of release that tab that's holding it into place, and when the blade retracts, this spring pulls the blade back, this spring goes back under tension, this spring relaxes again, and there's another tab back here that locks into that plate, and it kind of keeps the blade inside the handle. Now what happens when it fails, you can kind of see if I can find something here that I can use to stop this from cutting me. When you deploy this, you know, it'll hit whatever's in the way, and it'll kind of just be loosey-goosey flopping around in here. Both of those springs are now relaxed, and there's nothing holding the blade into place at all. So all you have to do is just pull the blade back out again and pull it out far enough so that that tab locks into place, and the blade is fixed again. So now you can pull it back in, push it back out. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Same thing with these knives. It's the exact same process. It's just better materials holding these things into place. So I think that's why you have much less instances of failure with these knives, and from what I've heard, you don't really hear about these things breaking at all. If the springs do happen to break, you can buy them on just about any website. They do have replacement parts for these, obviously, because they are quite expensive. If one of them breaks, you know, you don't want to just not use it again ever. That would suck for, you know, most people, I think. What else can I tell you about these guys? I really love these knives for sure. The ergonomics on these guys are fantastic. You can see on the Combat TROODON, it's kind of the front part of the knife is, you know, ever so slightly offset. It's just a little bit higher than the back part of the knife, and that helps it to sit in the hand very easily. Another thing that I've noticed with these guys, obviously being dual ground blades or double ground blades, you don't want to try to choke up or anything like that, because if you try to put your thumb here, obviously you're going to cut yourself. With the Combat TROODON, it's helpful having the trigger here, because you can kind of use that as traction to keep your thumb from sliding forward and contacting that blade. One of the only drawbacks that I can think of with the DIRAC Delta is that you don't really have that. There is a little bit of light jimping here on the front of the handle and a little bit on the back, but that's pretty much it. If you're holding it kind of backwards, I don't want to say backwards, but you know, when the trigger is here, it's facing away from your palm. So if you deploy the blade and kind of turn it so that it's facing in, that will give you a little bit more grip with that thing pressing into your palm there. But you don't really need that. You just need to kind of pay attention to what you're doing and make sure that you're not going to be shoving this into something hard while you're not holding onto the knife very well, so that it rides forward and your hand cuts, you know, you slice your hand open on that blade. The only thing I really don't like very much about these knives is the glass breakers. They're so big and gaudy and ugly. I don't know. I don't like them, but they're there, so I deal with them. The pocket clips are fantastic. With a knife this expensive, you kind of really don't want to see stamped stainless steel pocket clips, but that's what you get. Everything else about the knife is definitely high quality and very well done, so I try not to complain about the pocket clips too much. With the MICROTECH knives, you get the date that the knife was manufactured. You also get the serial number, and you get MICROTECH written with the little MICROTECH claw there, or talons, or whatever you want to call those. With signature series knives, you also get the signature there on the pocket clip. And like I said, if you have the correct tool, you can use the tool to unscrew this glass breaker here and take the pocket clip off if you'd like to. I don't know if that makes, I'm sure that makes these reversible, but you know, if you were to spin this around so that the pocket clip is on the other side, so you're a lefty, you know, you're going to be carrying it like this with the trigger on the under part of your hand. So that's going to make it kind of awkward to use the knife. With the DIRAC Delta, it's a little bit easier, just because you know, the trigger's not on the bottom of the knife, it's still kind of on the front of the knife when you're carrying it. So you know, the pocket clip is just okay for me, but it doesn't kill the fact that it's a great knife and definitely worth the money for sure. Obviously, if you get a smaller version of these knives, you're going to pay a little bit less. The UltraTechs are a little bit more affordable. The UTX 75 and UTX 85s are definitely more affordable, but as you go down in price, you go down in size. So if you're a bigger guy like me, you might end up having to pay quite a bit of money for these guys, just because, as you guys know, when I got my wife's standard DIRAC, it was comically small in my hand. I could never ever carry that knife. I would take it out to show it to you guys, but she's home right now, so I don't want to risk her coming in here and seeing it. But yes, I definitely love this knife a lot. It's one of my favorite knives that I have in my collection for sure. And as you guys have noticed recently, I'm sure I've been buying quite a bit of MICROTECH knives. Some of them are manual, some of them are OTFs. But I'm definitely become a big fan of MICROTECH over the past few months. I think that's it for these knives for today, guys. Another thing I wanted to tell you, Blades and EDC did me a solid yesterday. I had sent a message on Instagram just that I didn't need anything for Father's Day really, but it would certainly be nice if I hit 600 subscribers. Yesterday I was only 20 subscribers away from that. And I think he saw that message and he decided during his giveaway yesterday to you know, use one of my videos to do his giveaway, and he asked everybody to go to my channel and subscribe in order to enter the giveaway. So that brought me over 600, which was awesome. I can't thank him enough for that. So I'm at 604 now, I believe. So the next milestone is 700 subscribers, and when I hit 700 subscribers, I'm gonna do another giveaway. I just bought some stuff and it's on its way to the house, about $250 worth of cool knife stuff. So the sooner I hit 700 subscribers, the sooner I can do that giveaway. So if you guys are interested in that, just, I guess, you know, tell your friends, have people subscribe if they aren't already. And as soon as we get to 700 subscribers, I will do that giveaway and get that stuff out to whoever wins. I'm excited about it. But I think that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate that. And stay up, y'all. Take it easy. Bye. Bye.